It's been one of the worst foodborne outbreaks in at least a decade. More than 1,200 people are recovering after getting sick from salmonella. At first focusing on raw tomatoes for weeks, the FDA has now shifted its focus to jalapeno peppers. That's after one pepper at a Texas food distribution center tested positive for the strain of salmonella linked to the outbreak. Now the food industry is just starting to get a grip on its losses, an estimated $250 million.
I think in a case like this, where you cannot get to the source quickly, where you have many people exposed, where you have consumer confidence eroded the way it has been, surely this is very, very expensive to both the consumers and the industry.
That's in part because the government was forced to work with old record-keeping methods.
Well, it means that you've got to plow through lots of paper, and I think FDA's finding in salmonella and tomatoes case that the records often aren't even on site. They're at a corporate headquarters somewhere else, which can take even as up to days to access those records.
FDA officials admit paper records hindered investigators this time around in their efforts to pinpoint the source of the salmonella. But they say even if the agency had access to electronic records, investigators might still not uncover the source of outbreaks faster. Even so, some say all of this could have been avoided. Efforts to streamline the process were made back in 2003. That's when the FDA proposed all businesses keep electronic records, so if an outbreak occurred, they could quickly trace the origin.
If FDA had been given the resources and authority years ago that it asked for to solve these kinds of problems, I think we would have solved this already.
But the food industry lobbied with the White House, saying the policies were too expensive and too burdensome. In fact, the Food Marketing Institute called the rules unreasonable and unnecessary, saying they would require the industry to maintain an exorbitant amount of information. The Grocery Manufacturers Association said the policies would force them to keep cradle-to-grave records.
FDA's strong proposed bioterrorism rules were significantly watered down before they became final.
That's also in part because FDA was not involved in the final decision-making.
FDA drafted the rules originally, but there's a lot of negotiation about the rules above the FDA that the agency's not party to, and that's unfortunate because sometimes the scientists should have been there to make their case.
The AP reviewed government records between March 2003 and March 2004. Those documents revealed at least 10 meetings between industry representatives and the White House's Office of Management and Budget. Some of the participants included Kraft, the Grocery Manufacturers Association, Procter&Gamble, Kroger, and Safeway. But now, 5 years later, parts of the industry are acknowledging their lobbying efforts were too successful.
In a way, the weak rules have now bitten the industry because they, in fact, have suffered as a result of the weak traceback system.
And they're urging Congress to act again, hoping to prevent an outbreak like this latest one that's forced the FDA to operate in slow motion to find the source. Mike Gracia, The Associated Press.